Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Paramani Pratane, Namaste, Hari Prashakti Vishakaya, Om Agyanakamayandasya, Kadantana Shalakaya, Taksa Similitan Vena Tasmati Virave Namah, Sri Caitanya Manovistam Stapitam Vena Vitale, Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sakandantikam. Vansakapatamyascha Kripasindu Vijaya Patitram Pavanegro Vaishnavi Namo. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Last week we finished the 10th chapter of Madhya Lila, and guess which one we're going to start reading today? You got it. And this one is entitled The Veda Kirtan Pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So Veda Kirtan means the kirtan around going. So at this time, what's going to happen in this chapter is the devotees from Gaudadesh, from Bengal, from mostly around the Navadvip area, they had heard that Mahaprabhu had returned from his 2-year tour of South India, his pilgrimage to South India, and practically speaking, immediately they decided to take the 1-month walking journey to Jagannath Puri, and they're going to arrive in this chapter, and it's quite exciting. And one of the things they're going to do is every single day they're going to have big kirtans that go all around the Jagannath temple, and they'll be denoted, they'll be called prema kirtans, because they're chanted in great love. Kirtan is in great love, and also evokes great love from everyone who participates. And the residents of Puri had never heard of such a thing before. They have never heard of this kind of kirtan before. If you've been to Jagannath Puri, they prefer just hitting the gong. Gong, 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 gong. Yes, did you notice that? They like to gong, 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 gong. Was there, was at Rath Yatra in Jagannath Puri just recently? And was there a lot of kirtan going on?
Not much kirtan, but much of crowd was there.
Yes.
It just got lost.
Crowd ton. But there's an ecstasy,
Yes.
because everyone, the center is Lord Jagannath.
Yeah.
So I'll read the summary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that Prabhupada included of this chapter. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes the 11th chapter in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya tried his best to arrange a meeting between Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and King Prataparudra, the Lord flatly denied his request. He said, no. And this is a continuing drama that goes on from it started in the 10th chapter, where Maharaj Prataparudra had requested Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to arrange a meeting with him and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, he won't do it, he won't be the king, because he's a sannyasi, he's very strict. But I would have done it anyway, I would have tried my best, except that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling now. He went on his tour, and the king, being a king, Ishwara Bhav, he has a tendency to want to control things. So he said, how come you let him leave? You don't think that's funny? A little bit, because he's a king, so he's used to having his way all the time. But but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like the supreme king. He's the transcendental autocrat, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called him, the transcendental autocrat, which means he does exactly as he wants all the time. And that is Krishna's position, Krishna Chaitanya also. But they are the only ones who are not conditioned, practically speaking. They are not controlled by anything other than the love of their devotees. But so step by step, chapter by chapter, in the 10th chapter, the 11th chapter, the 12th, 13th, 14th, and finally in the 16th chapter, everything is going to be resolved fully, or the denouement in the technical English term for how things are completely resolved. And it's quite wonderful. Actually, each stage is quite wonderful. And this stage is also wonderful, but we'll get to that. At at this time, the Lord flatly denied his request. But at this time, Sri Ramananda post, and because he's worked in the government service, that means he knows Rajniti, which means diplomacy. So what he did, he didn't ask directly about Mahaprabhu, about the king Maharaj Pratapuja seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he spoke to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't ask directly, he just started glorifying the king and how wonderful he was. And Mahaprabhu's heart became a little soft. There's a story about Chanakya Pandit, how he, or actually the king, Chandragupta Maurya, he had lost a battle and he was overthrown. And he was gathering his forces and living incognito. And one day, he looked into the house of some just poor village people, and the little boy, his mother had given him some khichdi. Do you know this story? So she had given him some khichdi, just freshly cooked. So you know the story. So he put his spoon or his finger in the middle of it to eat. And Chandragupta Maurya is looking at this through the window, and the old peasant lady said to her son, "You're so foolish, you're like the king." He went right to the center when he attacked. Everyone knows it's too hot in the center. You should eat from the sides, she told him. This is an important lesson when you're eating your khichdi, by the way. And then the boy did that, and it was much cooler along the sides. And Chandragupta said, "Aha, Krishna is speaking to me through this," and he attacked from the sides. There's guerrilla warfare right from the very beginning. And he was victorious. So, because Maharaj Prataparudra heard from Ramananda Roy about the glories of the king, the Lord became a little soft, his heart became soft. The king also made promises to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who hinted how the king might meet the Lord. During Anavarsara, while Lord Jagannath was resting for 15 days, as we heard after the Snanyatra, where Lord Jagannath is bathed, and then he becomes ill from the bath, too much water. And then for 2 weeks after that, no one can see him as he recuperates, and they repaint in his body, etc., and any kind of repairs, preparing for Rath Yatra. And then, as we heard last week, he comes out again at the Netra Utsava, the festival festival for the eyes, where they see him again. And the devotees are so exuberant, so much love they have for Lord Jagannath that to go for 2 weeks without seeing him is almost impossible for them. And then when they finally see him again, they're so enthusiastic. So that period of 2 weeks when no one sees the Lord, has darshan of Jagannath, it's called Anavasara. Well, Lord Jagannath was resting for 15 days. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, being unable to see Lord Jagannath, went to Alalanath, maybe 14, 15 kilometers from Jagannath Puri. And you've been to, I can't remember, you've been to Alalanath. Quite an amazing place. Just imagine how much love the king, Mahaprabhu had for Lord Jagannath, that not being able to see him is one thing. So when he was in Alalanath, he couldn't see Lord Jagannath, but it was so much more painful for him to be in the place where he usually sees Lord Jagannath, but yet be unable to see him. It was even more painful, so he couldn't tolerate that. So he went to Alalanath. And ever since that time, all of Jagannath's, when they offer Mahaprasadam, cooks cook for Lord Jagannath, or they cooked for in Alanath thing. So Mahaprabhu basically started that tradition as far as I understand. Later, when so Mahaprabhu was in Alanath, when the devotees from Bengal came to see him, he returned to Jagannath Puri. Well, so now the devotees from Bengal, after the 1 month of walking, they just arrived in Jagannath Puri, and Mahaprabhu was in Alanath, and they told him, Nityananda Prabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told Mahaprabhu that now the devotees from Bengal are coming, so please come back to Jagannath Puri, even though they're not able to see Lord Jagannath yet. So Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri. While the Dvaitacharya and the other devotees were coming to Jagannath Puri, Swarup Damodar and Govinda, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's two personal assistants, went to receive all the devotees with garlands. And from the roof of the palace, King Prataparuja could see all the devotees arriving. So this was his chance to see the devotees. First he saw the devotees, and then he's going to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time. This was the one of the clever, very intelligent moves or plans of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, that you can see Mahaprabhu, maybe not from close, but first you'll see him at the top of your palace when the devotees arrive. You'll see them, and then by seeing them, you'll see Mahaprabhu. So Gopinath Acharya stood on the roof with the king. Does anyone know why Gopinath Acharya stood on the roof of with the king and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya? Yes.
Because he knew all the Bengal devotees.
Because he was from Nadia himself, and he knew Mahaprabhu's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had never met the devotees before from Navadvip, from Mayapur, Srila Mayapur. So he couldn't point out who they were, their names to the king, but Gopinath Acharya could. So the three of them were on the roof, and it was quite amazing what they saw. But I don't want to tell everything all at once. So Gopinath Acharya stood on the roof with the king, and following Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's instructions, identified each and every devotee. The king discussed the devotees with Gopinath Acharya, and he mentioned that the devotees were accepting prasadam without observing the regulative principles governing pilgrimages. They accepted prasadam without having shaved their heads, and they neglected to fast in a holy place. After Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had explained to the king why the devotees had apparently violated the scripture injunctions for visiting a place of pilgrimage, so that's a very wonderful reason, is because of their intense eagerness to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was intensely eager to see Lord Jagannath, because his mood was in the mood of, and we'll talk about this more, in the mood of Ashraya, in relationship to Lord Jagannath. He was in the mood of the shelter or the reservoir of love. And Lord Jagannath was his Vishaya, or the object of his love. Is that clear? Yes. But yet for the devotees from Bengal, they were the source or the reservoir of love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu was the object of their love. So they were more eager to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu than anything. So they couldn't, and this will happen with Ramananda Roy when he comes to. He also doesn't go to see Lord Jagannath first, which you're supposed to shave, bathe, fast, and go see Lord Jagannath, and then you go about your other duties. But he was so eager to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, how come you came without visiting Lord Jagannath first? And he said, the legs follow the heart. What could I do? So all this was spontaneous. So now we hear what you're supposed to do if you have spontaneous love. So when we go, we can all imitate properly. But But of course, it's not like that. Spontaneous means swabhavika. You know that word? Swabhavika.
Automatically generated from oneself.
Yes. It's naturally, automatically generated from within. So that's actually the path that Caitanya Mahaprabhu taught, the path of spontaneous love for Krishna. Because Krishna explains as described in Adi Lila chapter 4, that just to follow the rules and regulations, that will bring you to Vaikuntha, because you're doing it because you're supposed to do it. Because you're supposed to chant, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. So the motivation, the cause of your doing it is from outside of you. And swabhavika, or spontaneous, means it's coming from you itself. So Krishna explains in that Adi Lila chapter 4 that he's not so much moved by the regulated devotion, but he's moved by someone who really has deep, spontaneous, natural, overflowing affection for him. We're also like that. Everyone is like that. Because Krishna's like that, we're also like that. Because we're his part and parcel. So it's not hard to understand. But then one could ask the question, well, then I shouldn't follow any rules and regulations. I should just spontaneously do whatever I want, whatever is natural to me. That's a good way to go to hell, or what's that suburb out there? What? Huh?
Valga?
No, the one, there's a big, is there an oil refinery? When you get on the Coquina freeway, what do you?
Oh yeah, Cunana.
Yeah, Kwinana. Yeah, that probably, I never was there. Have you been there? Is it wonderful? No.
Ocean.
What, huh?
Ocean is nice,
Ocean.
but after the ocean, the drama starts.
One time in 1966, probably, Prabhupada had to go, the devotees took Prabhupada to some engagement in New York. And they went on the subway. And none of you probably have seen the New York subway. Yeah, and it's so exciting, yes. So the devotees were a little apologetic to bring Prabhupada there, and they said, this is just like hell. To Prabhupada said, no, in hell there's no electricity. I mean, it's even worse than the New York subway, so you can imagine. Was it frightening when you were in there, or was it just?
I don't think so. I don't even remember that much.
Yeah, you were little then,
No, but
blocked it out of your mind, it was so traumatic. What have you done to this poor boy? So, if we spontaneously just do whatever we want, what's the relationship between following the rules and regulations that we all must follow, and we've been taught and trained to follow them, and developing spontaneous love? Are they against it, or all the devotees who are very strict in following, will they all go to Vaikuntha, and all those who don't follow anything, they'll all go to Goloka Vrindavan? No, it doesn't work like that. So Srila Jiva Goswami describes in Bhakti Sandarbha that the devotees, the followers of Mahaprabhu, their following of the rules and regulations is different from the, is anyone here from South India? No, it's okay, then I can say it. And the South Indian, very much attachment to, it's interesting, everyone's from North India, except from you, you're a Martian. You're from Calcutta. So, no, he says it's supportive. It's supportive of the path of spontaneous devotion, the rules and regulations, because the goal isn't to go to Vaikuntha. This is actually described in especially when Mahaprabhu goes to visit Udupi and Srirangam, that we heard about that, when he speaks to the devotees in those places, it was clear that the goal was liberation and to go to Vaikuntha. And it was interesting because in one of Prabhupada's purports, he says that the goal of Krishna consciousness is not even to go back to Godhead. I was surprised to hear Prabhupada say that. But he said the goal is prema bhakti, to love Krishna. That's actually the goal, to develop uncontaminated, unadulterated, pure, spontaneous love for Krishna. That's the mood of Vrindavan. And that's the mood that Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu taught. And the rules and regulations are there to train us and support us in that attempt. Now, Prabhupada gave an interesting example of this. He said in the old days, when the young boys and girls would get married at a very old age, and then he tells that, I can't remember the ages, but he said his mother was married when she was, I don't know what, was it 8 or 12 or 10 or something like that. And but they would, the boy and the girl, the boy was older, but they wouldn't live together. But it would focus their minds that they had someone. So the system was that there was no relationship between the boy and the girl. They were just children. There was no practical relationship between them. So the ladies of the house would cook something and teach the young girl to cook something, and she'd go and give it to the young boy. And there was no relationship. By doing that, the relationship would develop. By following it in a rules and regulations way, then the actual relationship would become very firm and strong and natural and spontaneous. So that was the example that Prabhupada gave to give us some idea of the relationship between the Vaidhi Bhakti for a devotee and the spontaneous devotion which will naturally develop from it. So the king discussed the devotees with Gopinath Acharya, and he mentioned that the devotees were accepting prasadam without observing the regulative principles governing pilgrimages. They accepted prasadam without having shaved, and they neglected to fast in a holy place. After Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained to the king why the devotees had apparently violated the scriptural injunctions for visiting a place of pilgrimage, the king then arranged residential quarters for all the devotees and saw to their prasadam. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu talked very happily, so then the devotees met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is described in detail. It's all very touching and very moving and also very instructive. All the dealings between the devotees, and the dealings between the devotees are so engendering of happiness. And Mahaprabhu is very expert at capturing the hearts of all the devotees, as Krishna was expert, and as Prabhupada was expert. So Mahaprabhu and the devotees meet, and Mahaprabhu talked very happily with Dev Datta and the other devotees. Haridas Thakur also came, and due to his humble and submissive attitude, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him a nice solitary place near the temple. So all the devotees were in the house of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his room, but Haridas Thakur wouldn't go in. And Mahaprabhu went to, they said, come. He said, no, I'm too fallen. And Mahaprabhu then went to him and organized something for Haridas. Haridas only wanted one thing, a nice solitary place where he could just chant Krishna's holy names, because he couldn't go into the temple. Really, do you go into the temple?
I couldn't go this time.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't go to.
Oh, because Lord Jagannath was out.
Very difficult to go there. Everything was blocked, so very difficult to go to Siddhabakul.
To go to Siddhavakul.
Yeah.
But did you go to the temple? I was going to
Yeah.
ask you if you went in the temple.
Yeah, I went to the temple.
Yeah.
After the Ratha Yatra, car
Yeah.
went to Kundicha. Then
Did you go to see the Lord in Gundicha? Too?
I couldn't go inside because it was already delayed. We had to go back.
Yeah.
So when the cart reached Kundicha, I went and paid my obeisances there and then came back. Couldn't go inside Kundicha.
I think yesterday Nitai Prabhu told me that they wouldn't let people in Gundicha to clean because there were ministers and everyone coming, so for security reasons, none of the quote ordinary devotees could go in. After this, the Lord began, so after he gave Haridas Thakur his place in Siddhavakul, after this, the Lord began performing Sankirtan, dividing all the devotees into 4 groups, and after Sankirtan, all the devotees left for their residential quarters. Any questions on anything that we just spoke about? You have a question? No. You sure? So many questions. Yes.
I do have one. Those two, the object and the subject, if you can explain those words.
Yes, but can you wait?
Mhm.
Because it'll come up soon in the next couple, not in the next classroom, but the one after. Is that all right? But it's simple. Huh?
She might be here.
Well, in a simple way, this is described in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu Nectar of Devotion, that there's the Ashraya and the Vishaya. Just like there's one song, Vishaya Chadya. Chadya means to give up, and Vishaya means the objects of sense enjoyment, but it means the object. So the object of love is the Vishaya. And that's Krishna in Vrindavan. He's the object of everyone's love. And the Ashraya is the shelter of that love. Where that love resides, the reservoir of the love. So the love for Krishna is in the devotees. So see, both have to be there for ecstasy, for rasa to take place. The object of love, the Vishaya, and then there's the Ashraya. So if we want to learn about love for Krishna, we learn from the Ashraya. Is that clear?
No, not the shelter of the love. No, it's not clear.
It's like a reservoir, a big pot of love. It's in the heart of the devotees.
Okay.
So it's like, think of it like a big pot of love. It's in the heart of the devotees. Love is in the devotees. It's not, love for Krishna is not in Krishna, but it's in the devotees. Right? Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So the devotees are the Ashraya. And Krishna is the Vishaya. So here's any other questions? Yes.
You were talking about when during when Jagannath was being repaired and painted, and he started.
But he was ill.
Yeah. You said he started a new trend, but I didn't quite.
Oh, as far as I know,
pick up the-
since the time of Mahaprabhu, they would cook, the cooks of Lord Jagannath, because he doesn't eat. He only drinks juices because he's ill. So the cooks, the Lord Jagannath would be cooked for in Alalanath. that's, I understand, but I didn't actually read that somewhere. But I understand that since the time of Mahaprabhu.
Because normally he gets 56 offerings a day. So they continue cooking in the lamb.
I think so, though I don't
Who did they
know
offer
how
it
to,
to?
huh?
Who did they offer it to?
There's a wonderful deity there, the deity of Alalana, a form, Vishnu form. See, Mahaprabhu would be there, and his vision was he would see Krishna everywhere, Shyamasundar Krishna, because he was in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So there's one verse in Padavali where he says that one of the author is unknown if I remember correctly, but the verse says that separation from Krishna is better than being with Krishna. Because when you're with Krishna, you see one Krishna. But when you're separate from Krishna, everywhere you look, you see Krishna. So when Mahaprabhu came to Jagannath Puri, he saw Krishna, Lord Jagannath, but in the mood of Kurukshetra. Clear? And his mood was the mood of Srimati Radharani of the Gopis. So seeing the same Krishna, this is described in the Rath Yatra chapter, 13th chapter. His mood when he saw Jagannath was the mood, he saw Jagannath as Shyamasundar, but in an opulent way, like he's in Dwarka or in Kurukshetra. He's a king. So that wasn't fully satisfying to the residents of Vrindavan. They wanted him to come to Vrindavan because the atmosphere is different in Vrindavan. Even though the two people were there, the mood was different. So that's the meaning of Rath Yatra, and that's what Gundicha is, Vrindavan, and the way that it's seen by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Is that sort of clear?
Yeah, I understood that part, just the Alamana part.
Oh, yeah. So when Mahaprabhu was there, he sees Jagannath in separation. He sees Jagannath or he sees Krishna, but separation from Krishna. He's simultaneously there and not there because he's in a four-arm form or he's in a Jagannath form. But he sees Shyamasundar
Is that
in
Paita?
separation. Huh?
Is that the same as Paita?
Same as what?
Paita?
Paita. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah.
Where they're looking for, all the gopis are looking for Krishna.
And then he jokingly four-arm form, yes. And he couldn't hold that in front of the love of Srimati Radharani. So this is very, very deep. I mean, I can say it, but to actually develop love for Krishna, as Mahaprabhu was teaching, is something extremely wonderful and extremely rare, but it's our path. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned the point that Prem should be the goal and Goloka
Prem.
should be the goal.
The other, yeah, Prema Bhakti.
And then Vaikuntha was not. So how do we understand if I've had this discussion sometimes with other devotees and they say that there is an aspect of preference and then perhaps someone is eternally, their preference is to serve God in perhaps in Vaikuntha. But so for me it doesn't make sense. It's either like everyone should be aiming for the highest goal, but then you wouldn't impose that on others.
That's to some degree, that may be our material ambition speaking.
Mm.
That, you know, this is the highest. I mean, why shouldn't I have the highest? After all, I'm me. But it's whatever will satisfy you. Like Gopkumar and Priyad Bhagavatamrita, he was in the, see, because the highest is Krishna. So we don't want to be the highest. And all the top positions are filled. We don't want to we want to serve, that's the highest. Prema Bhakti means loving service. The basis of it is service. And that can be absent, through a high spiritual achiever, can be absent. But it's service, loving service, not ordinary service, not service because you're told to serve or being paid to serve. So the first stage is Anyavilasita Sunyam. That's the devotional service that will give birth to bhava, love for Krishna, is defined of not wanting anything, just to serve. But then there's different ways, reasons, motivations for service. One could be because you're told to, have to, and the other is because you have so much appreciation or affection for the person, you want to do something to please them. Yeah, so that's the path. And then there's different stages on the path. But it's, so if we hear that Gopkumara, for all his travels, we go into what satisfies us, in a sense. Nothing will, until we're in a position that satisfies us, we're not going to be satisfied. As soon as we are satisfied, then we stop, so to speak, striving. And that's our natural position. And that's basically dormant in everyone. But there's a but. There's one purport in Caitanya Caritamrta, perhaps the fifth, or either the fifth or the sixth chapter of Adi Lila, where Srila Prabhupada quotes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saying that even if your rasa is something different by association or with Caitanya Mahaprabhu or love for the six Goswamis, then it can shift. So I assume that would go for Vaikuntha too, because it's so attractive. So it should be the goal, you could say. But by Caitanya Mahaprabhu's association, both Venkatabhatta and the Udupi Acharya, whom Mahaprabhu was speaking of, they were definitely affected and they shifted. Can you have more further?
Well, it's not necessarily my viewpoint, but I guess it's just if someone goes, well, this is higher, and let's say I'm a practitioner in more foreign reference, and then someone comes and says that this is higher, then it's an attack against that relationship that I currently have, or that rasa that I currently have, and I understand that the point is to serve, so someone should.
But that's only on the material point of view, from looking at it from how a materialist would react. You can't say that,
Yes.
my football team is not as good as your football team, etc. My country, my this, my that. The false ego gets disturbed, but on this level, there's no false ego. So neither in saying, well, my God is higher, or my rasa is higher than your rasa, there's not how it goes. And we don't have any arguments on one level with people who are following purely, or our argument is only really with the atheists. That's what I've heard Prabhupada say that too. Our argument is actually on the, we don't fight with the followers of, we shouldn't fight with the followers of Sri Ramadusacharya and Madhvacharya, but Mahaprabhu was trying to establish some siddhanta, some philosophical conclusions. So the last thing we want to do is fight with the people who we're closest to. But sometimes you discuss siddhanta to establish things, and those discussions are meant there on the level of Shastra. And also, if someone wants to go to Vaikuntha, okay, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, it was more in terms of a lot of different spiritual parts, and if you're trying to look at more like if you're looking at, okay, I believe that there's something spiritual, metaphysical, and you start looking at, well, which one seems more accurate to me or makes more logical sense, and yeah, I guess it's that ego attached to a part. It's like an identity.
Yeah, but if someone is objectively looking, and this is discussed in Caitanya Caritamrta, so, and when Prabhupada speaks about rasas, the different rasas, he most generally will say they're all the same. Because he's making the point that they're all spiritual, they're all transcendental, they're all above the modes of material nature. And it's like, and two ants at the bottom of, what's the highest mountain we know of?
Highest mountain.
Yes.
Everest.
Huh?
Everest.
Okay, two ants at the bottom of Mount Everest, and they're trying to look up at the peak, and there's a peak like here, and then there's a little peak a little higher, and saying, well, that peak is higher than that peak. And, they're like ants at the bottom of the mountain, and, it's completely irrelevant, practically speaking. There may be some truth in it. So Prabhupada so his general answer was that they're all the same, all the rasas are the same. But Caitanya Caritamrta also says they're all the same, but if you look at it objectively, the Madhurya rasa contains all the elements of all the other rasas, but plus more. So there's a way to look at it. So you always look at the context that a statement is put in. Because when there's false ego involved, you say, well, I don't want to be like a cowherd boy of being a gopi. It's better than being a cowherd boy. Why should I settle? It just doesn't work like that. That's quite a nasty, offensive attitude for an aunt, really for an uncle. Any more? It's silly.
So does the ant keep going up the hill past till it gets to the top?
Ants cannot go to climb Everest, by the way.
It scares them.
You have to change, something has to change. You have to fly, and you can't even fly. You have to get mercy. And what brings mercy? That's what kind of an attitude will bring mercy. That's the search for a devotee, and that's the purity of the heart, sincere desire to serve, not amanina manadena, not wanting respect, but giving respect. So many things on that level. Those type of things. And quality of chanting, sincerity. Things that are easier to speak about than to act on. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say that clearly I don't know very much, but it seems to me that all varieties and all races are needed to be complete. We may say that Madhurya Ras is the highest, but even in material life, we need friendship, and to be complete, everything must be there.
Someone once asked Prabhupada, is there snow in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan? Did you ever hear this?
Vaguely remember.
Yes, because everything, this is a reflection. says, yes, but it's not cold. Sometimes I've heard Prabhupada say, everything is there except for envy. Material envy. But that question can also be answered on other levels, by the way. Any other questions? Excuse me, I'm gonna find out what time it is. I know, a more polite way to do it is asking it, what time is it?
10 past 10.
Okay. So read a little bit more. Any other questions, though? I could tell.
I was just thinking, if envy is not there, why is it in the material world? Like, because everything's supposed to be reflection, how did it came in? Like,
What's the opposite of envy? Non-envy, okay? What does envy mean?
aggressively being jealous, like, it's like sort of jealousy, but worse.
Yeah, and the way I think of it is you wishing, jealousy is you want what the other person has.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the exact definition. And envy is when you wish the other person harm. You want to pull them down.
Yes.
So what's the opposite of wanting to pull someone down?
Helping someone.
So, okay, so what causes one to always be the well-wisher of another?
Friendship.
Okay, love.
Love.
Yeah, so the opposite of the reflected, envy is a reflection of love. And therefore we say in the material world, there's no actual love. Actual love.
Hmm.
Like it is said in here, like Mahaprabhu couldn't tolerate being in Jagannath Puri without being able to see Jagannath, Lord Jagannath. Mother Yasoda Patyavali's book anthology says that she was willing to give up her life thousands of times to save Krishna from even a drop of perspiration or inconvenience. That's the love of Braj. It's all about Krishna's pleasure. There's no self-interest, swata. There's no selfishness. So we're like ants, and we look at even those, when we hear about what Mahaprabhu's mood was, what the mood of the residents of Vrindavan in dealing with Krishna, when we actually hear, rather than thinking, oh yeah, I want to do that, we think, oh, I'm so fallen, how in the world will I ever, I'm like an ant, and this is like Mount Everest. So one becomes humble, and that's the prerequisite. How come you haven't been to Mount Everest? Why don't you ask your father to take you? Good plan. It's hard though. You have to train for it for years, months, and you have to be very strong. And it's dangerous too.
Too cold.
Too cold. You say too cold, I say too old. But we all find our excuses. But on this one, we shouldn't have an excuse on this. And we shouldn't have envy if we see others who are better than us, rather than trying to pull them down and find fault with them or whatever. We try to serve. And what do you do with the bad feelings in the heart that we have towards others? We become humble, at least. Become conscious of them. Become humble. Any other questions? Okay. We're gonna end at 10:15 and my watch says 10:14. What does yours say?
14.
Okay. We have 1 minute's worth of questions. Anyone have a 1 minute question? Yes.
What if you feel like you're stuck in a relationship, like a rasa, and you can't go any further?
Like you're a tree, and you know, like why do I have to be a tree? Even though then they say, oh, someone has to do it. why is it always me? You be like that?
Yeah, Krishna was gonna pull me down and release me, it'll be okay.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you know, the two trees, Nanakabara Manigriva,
Yeah.
and he pulls them down
Yeah.
so they're released from there. Could you-
But he released them. Yeah, he released them. And what did they desire after that? They desired just to always be engaged in Krishna service, to always be hearing and chanting. They'd seen Krishna's pastimes in Gokul, and their desires had completely changed. So that's the level on which, why we read and hear and chant, is we want to change our desires, because where the desires are is where the mind and body will go. So we want to purify our mind and heart and of material desires, and establish spiritual desires in the heart, in our consciousness. What do you think?
Okay. Whatever you said was right, Maharaj.
I don't know what I'd say, but yeah. I mean, the good thing about saying it, fall asleep while you're talking, but you can't hear what you say. Okay, we shall end here. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki
Jai.
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Sri Caitanya Caritamrta's author, Sri Krishna's Kavirata Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Sri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Hare
Hare.